Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast, Conversations with Silicon Valley's Creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hello, welcome to the Content Magazine podcast. I'm Daniel Garcia, the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates. We're here in the Sofa Studio today with Tommy Aguilar, who also goes by Charlie Brown and Universal Grammar, Ungrammar, all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised that this is the first time we're doing a podcast because I've known you now for, it's got to be...
Since the beginning of content?
Yeah, since the beginning of content. Actually, I think that's where I first met you, actually, was with the live at Pagoda was starting. Mm-hmm. I think that was kind of like the first time I came.
So that was
2000.
Pagoda started in 2010. When did content start?
Oh, we started 2012. Well, 2010, 2012, kind of like around that time, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, hey, man, thanks. I'm excited to talk to you about life and all that kind of stuff. And so, but I do want to start, just because some people may not know exactly all what you do. Why don't you give a quick rundown of how you would describe what Universal Grammar is, kind of like, do like the elevator speech, and then I'm going to take you through the whole, like your life from when you first rode a bike to today.
Boy, that's tough, even the elevator speech, but Universal Grammar is just an extension of me. It's my art. I look at the work that I do under Universal Grammar. Like I said, it's like I have a blank canvas, and then the end product is my art piece. And so what are those things? I create events around music, particularly. So you might have come to an event of mine that featured a live band or bands, or it might have been more of a dance party that featured a DJ lineup. I've collaborated with many nonprofits we can speak about as we go, but in book readings, so literary events, film screenings, and anything really that celebrates like authentic arts and culture is what Universal Grammar does. But yeah, it's all of those things.
Would you say DJ and promoter? Those would be like, would you say? Or how? Yeah, I'm kind of curious how you categorize yourself.
That's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up and said it that way, because I really don't like the use or the term promoter being used to describe anything I've done.
Okay.
I think as all artists, creatives, whatever you may be doing as an art form, you're going to promote yourself if you're trying to get out there in the world, right? But what I've never thought myself as a promoter, but like just more of a producer, and kind of taking an approach as an artist. Like I said, Universal Grammar is more or less my art, and I'm going to tell people about it. So if you want to put the promoter out there, that's fine. But I just think it's limiting to who I am.
Yeah,
personally.
So then, would you say, and this is what I'm kind of getting from, and what I've seen too, is actually it's more kind of, it's about music, but it's really about a gathering of people.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you're trying to bring people together for an experience, a vibe.
Absolutely.
Right?
You hit it right on the button. Everything that Universal Grammar has done since day one has been very intentional. It's Universal Grammar was birthed out of what I saw in my city of San Jose as a lack thereof, and so I'm not seeing a space for myself personally at the time to be at.
Right.
Yeah, there were certain things that I would definitely make it out to, and definitely like made me who I am. But I felt like there was a lot of the same happening, and I thought that like, man, like we're missing these other elements to our scene, if you will, at the time. So,
which was like, what time frame is this? Like when you're starting to come up to be, because I know you started kind of doing a couple events at West Valley when you were going to West Valley College,
correct. Right? So I'll say that San Jose back in, I would say, well, when I was in high school, so that's about, I'm aging myself now, in the 90s, I think there was a renaissance that was happening. And I think there's a gentleman that we're probably going to mention here in this podcast who was a part of that renaissance happening. But while this was happening, there was this club called Cactus Club.
Yeah.
That was all ages. And that was, as a 16-year-old, was a spot to go to in downtown San Jose. Yeah. So my first experience of coming to downtown as a young or teenager and experiencing a club experience definitely shaped, glad we had that.
Yeah.
Sucks for any 16-year-olds nowadays that they don't have that experience, but so that kind of shaped me to say these events are happening. Maybe 16, 17, I didn't really think, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my career or whatever.
Yeah.
But that didn't really happen until later. So I guess that didn't really spawn in me the idea of creating something until I think I got into college. And
but you always had kind of like an interest and a draw to music, right? Hip hop. And didn't you work at a record store or something?
Yeah.
So that was that kind of like the vinyl of love.
Look, so totally. Look, my parents, as I've come to know, even as, rest in peace to my mom and dad, but they always had stacks of records in the living room. My mom, very fond of the JBs and James Brown and Michael Jackson, off the wall era, very much like love to dance, love to groove. And they would throw parties. They would throw New Year's parties. Even when we were young, me and my brother were younger, they would have get-togethers at the house and stacks of 45s. And my dad was more he loved the oldies vibes. But he had the thing about my dad is his taste was much deeper into jazz of the 70s and early 80s. So that's what molded me as a young kid, right? That resonates more to me than any other era of music.
Yeah.
So I go back to those days. When I hear a song from 82 or 83, I'm envisioning myself in my mom's Monte Carlo. She's driving around, and she's got her radio turned up, and it's, whether it be Evelyn Champagne King or, Aretha Franklin, 80s era, like boogie stuff, that was just, it's just nostalgic to me. Feels good.
That's
to
awesome.
me.
In those days in the Monte Carlo too, you can climb over the seats. You have to wear a seatbelt.
I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I was standing up in the passenger seat, tapping my toes. My mom would always say, you always had your little knee moving there, But I was feeling the groove. So that shaped me. But
so definitely a lot of early music and
in the household,
party, good time, kind of
and mainly around soul and jazz and just groove music. So that was just in me. And
so then how did you then go from then what was, and then you went to the Cactus Club, but then at West Valley, how did you get into I'm going to put a show on?
I think before we get to even going to hip hop shows, I think my high school years were formative because I went to high school during what people refer to as the golden era of hip hop, like the early 90s.
Okay.
So I had a lot of, my brother's 4 years older than me. And my cousins were older than me that had boyfriends that were 4 or 5 years older than me. So they were, as I realized I have a very open-minded ear. So the first time I started hearing hip-hop beats, late 80s, I was 10, 11.
Yeah.
And hearing Public Enemy or EPMD or even the West Coast, the NWA, that's what my brother and his friends were listening to. So I wanted to be cool and be around them. So I was then getting that pounded into my ears. So, and then hip hop, that golden era of the 90s, I walked right into Tribe Called Quest. So I have to mention them because they're super influential to my ear and my taste. Because that led me back to my dad's records. You heard certain sounds on those records that I'm wait a minute. I connected the dots. I was wait a minute, my pops plays a record that has that same sound. So, that's where I started developing my a love for music.
Yeah.
And where my brother maybe was listening to it as it was part of the times, I got deep into it, So in my high school years, I was, definitely getting all the rap magazines and like reading like the Source magazine and like really jumping into it, trying to learn industry stuff, and even in high school. So and I lucked out in this job. I have to shout out this gentleman. I can't remember his name, but he was a boyfriend to one of my mom's best friends at the time. And he came over to the house and he heard me playing like these hip hop beats, in my room. And he asked my mom, "Is your son listen to hip hop rap music?" She's, "Oh yeah, he loves his music. He goes to the record store all the time and gets himself some tapes, right?" And he's like, "Well, I might have a job for him, so could you bring him out? I'd love to talk to him." She said, "Sure, yeah." And then, he introduced himself as that he worked for these record companies. And one of them, I think, was BMG, which at the time I didn't know was like a distribution company, but like BMG were distributing records from like Columbia and Sony. And so he's like, "Hey, you're going to high school right now? Asked me where I was going. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to Piedmont Hills." And he's like, "Well, all your friends listen to music like this?" And I'm like, yeah. He's like, "Would you be open to doing something for me and passing out free tapes and records?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Sure, yeah, that sounds
What's
cool."
my cut?
Yeah, exactly. It was a job for sure. And he would pay me, some couple $100 every time he dropped off a bundle of stuff. But he actually at the time like had really dope stuff. Like Boogie Down Production, a new album. I'll drop some names: Sex and Violence Records, Cypress Hill's first album, a bunch of singles, records, 12 inches from the Juice soundtrack. And I'm coming to school with this box of stuff, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm giving this away free." So I got some clout.
Yeah,
like,
because you were the taste master.
Yeah, I was giving away this free music. Like, what? You got a whole tape of the Sex and Violence album? And there was much more too that I was giving out. So that got me a little clout. And actually, that's, I think, the seed that got dropped in me. Like, wow, I'm actually working for somebody who's part of a label, and I'm getting actual real product. It's not bootlegged, it's promo. It's promo stuff.
Yeah, right.
So I think, that's little things.
I never heard that part of your story before. That's pretty cool, actually. That does seems like it really would seed like kind of like a thing of like, wow, like it opens up like even the music industry into like a bigger kind of thing.
And I didn't see it like
I
didn't see it, and I just see it because I'm in San Jose. I'm a kid in San Jose, East Side San Jose. I don't see how it was part of a larger network of industry, right? That I was helping this guy out with. So exactly. It really, there was a little bit of entrepreneurship that started to brew in me. Like, oh, I'm that guy. I'm passing out these CDs and tapes, and at times I would like finagle $5 off somebody, so I wasn't I wasn't supposed to do that, but that was just me being a kid at the time.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, exactly. So
American capitalism.
So there's a part of me that was like, I wanted to do things what my parents expected of me. That is, graduate from high school, go to college, get a career, a career, traditional career job.
What would you think, like, at that particular time? Like, if you had, I mean, like, you were just thinking, like, oh, I'm going to do business. Or were you kind of had, like, you know what I mean? Like, I even had, like, I didn't really know, but I was, like, just going to do business because what else what did you
I really had no idea. I'm like, I like books. I like reading. So I thought maybe I'll be an English teacher. I'll be a teacher. Like, I thought that would be something. Or, business, career or whatever that meant. I didn't know what it meant. I had no clue. There was no, I have to say it wasn't really, my head wasn't really in the books. I was more or less a jock, you would say. I was like, I loved my music and I loved playing baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever I was playing at high school. So, I scraped through high school grades wise. So I didn't really put my head in the books like that. In fact, I felt like I was learning more listening to these rap records.
Right.
I'm learning about Malcolm X.
Right.
And
history and culture.
And art, to listen to these rap music at the time, So I'm looking, who's this person, based on what was being said in the rap record. So what I was getting at school was.
So then you went to West Valley, and then I'm just really curious of like how does that go from like being there sitting in classes doing that kind of stuff, and then going like, oh yeah, I want to put on an event. Like, how do you?
I didn't have that.
It wasn't like
it took a professor to really kind of like. He's kind of like, I think he saw me, like, I'm going to classes. He was an English teacher, right? I'm going to classes. When I put my mind to it, I would deliver a great paper for him.
Yeah.
And, and then he'd be pissed off, like, man, I'm so, like, I struggle with you because this is beautiful.
Do it all the time.
You do this all. You can do this all the time. And then I would not care and either miss an assignment. But he also knew that, and we bonded outside of class. Yeah. He was a young professor. I think he was in his 20s at the time. And when I first met him, I was sent to his office because he was part of it was called the Puente program. So it's more like for, like, I guess Latinos or at risk, like folks trying to get through college.
Yeah.
So that was a program he was a part of. When I walked up to his office, I remember walking to his door and then hearing Diggable Planets. Right, I'm like, who's playing Diggable Planets? It's one of my favorite records, right? The second album, Blowout Comb. And so I knock on the door, and this person says, hey, come in. And it's this cat with long hair. He's wearing Vans, got cut off pants, right? Just like a skater cat or something. Yeah. And then I'm like, hey, I'm looking for Thomas Moniz. He's like, yeah, that's me. I was like, okay, I didn't think a professor looked like you, but this is cool, right?
Yeah.
So we hit it off, and I think he realized after a few semesters hanging around, my mind was just not in books.
Yeah.
I definitely was very much involved with politics, though. Like, I was very much like an activist and kind of ruffling feathers on the campus.
Yeah, sure.
We were doing little protest projects on campus at West Valley College in Saratoga. It was kind of weird, like kids walking by, like, who cares, but we're over here trying to, like, fight the power. But I was all driven by that hip hop music and the rap and the other readings that I was taking on. And Thomas Moniz, still, the stuff he would have us read in class was very much enlightening too. Yeah, he was very much progressive guy. So he actually fed that part of my soul. Yeah. But as he realized, he's like, Tom, you got to figure out what you're going to do, bro. Like, you got to, how about you go to the student body, ask for some money, and go throw a hip-hop show. You love to listen to rap music. You're always talking about rap music. You're always talking about new albums or whatever. And that was it. I was like, I can do that? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'll co-sign for you. I'll be the faculty person to support you on this. Yeah. But I want you to, like, follow through and be organized and all this stuff, right?
That's cool.
So that's what started it.
That's cool.
So I think I threw like 4 or 5 different events. And very politically driven too. So it wasn't just like, oh, this is a rap show. Like, I did October 22nd. There was this coalition that was called October 22nd Coalition against Police Brutality. So that was kind of, I was in that space at that time too. Whereas we're facing a lot of that still to this day, right? Yeah. So I was about that then. Yeah. So I would connect with other organizations trying to get that message out, and then I would just curate a lineup of music to support the event. Yeah. That's kind of how that started.
That's cool.
And then that led to more organizing, and it wasn't just about rap shows and DJ events at West Valley. I started bringing speakers and poets. Yeah. Wow. Saul Williams was one of the bigger names that we brought to West Valley, my collective that I was working with there. That's what caught the eye of an organization downtown, Makla. Yeah. So that led me to Makla. And Makla probably wouldn't be happy to hear this, but they pretty much were the cause of me dropping out of college because they offered me a gig. And as a kid or teenager at the time, Makla was a place that was the space for me to go to. After Cactus Club it ended up being closed down and it became something else. It was the all ages venue left our city and was a huge blow, but Makla became that space. Yeah. But Makla was doing much more than just any music stuff. They were doing like the poetry slams and then the amazing art that they had on the wall. So for Makla to give me a call, I was like, this is like an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so I jumped at it.
Yeah.
The program coordinator, shout out to Mark Binate. He reached out to me and said, hey, you know.
Were you already kind of hanging out at Makla at that time?
I wasn't hanging out per se, but I was going to a lot of their events.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And Mark Binate, at that time, so you're talking about 98, 99, Slam era. I remember going to the Slam finals, which would ascend, it was like the Bay Area or West Coast, like regional. So the winner of this particular Slam was going to go to the national tournament.
Was it like Dirtbag Dan or somebody like that? Or
no, Dirtbag Dan was years after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, years after.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is, I think one was a female by the name of Melinda Foley, Robert Karimi, and Mark Pinate, and another gentleman, I can't remember his name, but they represent Team San Jose.
Okay.
And in the finals was Oakland, SAC, SF, San Jose, and I think another town. And San Jose killed it. Yeah. Like those four poets killed it, and I was so proud of my city. And they were dope. And Mark Pinate was one of them. And so to get a call from him, I'm like, bro,
totally. You just saw him.
I saw you. Like I follow you. Like I'm a fan.
Yeah. Pre-Instagram follow.
Correct. Yeah. So that was he gave me a call like, hey, are you the guy that's doing these Saul Williams at West Valley and hip hop shows? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then that was the next chapter.
Yeah.
That was the next chapter.
That's cool.
Yeah. I know I skipped over, you had asked me about this record store thing, but that was during my West Valley college days
sure,
too.
that time. Yeah,
so I was still working at the record store.
And all that.
It was still pretty much part of me. So, I'd leave campus, I'd go to work at Star Records. Eastside San Jose, North Capitol Avenue, McKee Road.
Is it still there?
Nah. Yeah, it's a Happy Lemon now.
What happy? I don't even know what happened.
It's like a boba drink shop.
Of course, a boba.
Yeah. I love it too.
Some turns into a gym, like a workout place, or a boba place.
Yeah.
So then, what the West Valley show? That started that experience, and then the Makla. About what year is this ish? I'm kind of trying to get the timeline.
2001, when I was asked to hey, can you? Yeah. Here's the space.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I put art on the gallery walls? At the time, it was kind of like, I don't know, we should, like, the powers that be at Makla, they were kind of nervous, like allowing me to bring in a graph artist and paint on those walls, because I had no clue how galleries operated. But I ended up learning that.
Yeah, totally.
Shout out to Angie Hellstrup for the tutelage and learning how to operate a gallery, but or how a gallery moves, Yeah. But so we took over the space, and I would have artists come in, San Jose based, and say, you got this section, and you got this section, and I want this over there, and hey Tom, can I put up some canvas work? Yeah, sure, you can do that. And then I also curated a music lineup around it, you know, and we established what was then called the Universal Grammar Collective, because I had a team of folks that were just volunteering and following my lead and helping me produce these events. And then that led to being involved in Makla. Then were you in Mali? Did you do Mali too? Yeah. So after, I have to say that a couple years of creating these events at Makla, I do remember at the time Makla was kind of in a tough spot, and they were looking for a permanent leader, and that's when I met Tamara Alvarado. Another amazing leader in our community. And I think just through the rep I guess I had built, and Mark Pinate advocating for me, they were able to find me a job within the space. I became their facilities access coordinator, meaning you're connecting the community. So get people in here to use the space, charge them a fee, so we can generate revenue, help pay you, and They gave me a little job, and they allowed me to basically hold an office space in there. So they called it like incubation. And cool. they incubated Universal Grammar.
Yeah.
For a good 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
So you had that, and then of course that led to the agenda, and then led to the pagoda.
Yeah.
But I kind of, before we get there, I want to talk to you about, because it's kind of like this theme of like, and then just because we're doing this on the week after Chris is passing away, but just like the mentors, like, and the community. Talk about like where you are now and the connections that you've made because of the community.
Yeah. So I feel a bit lucky. I think if I didn't meet the people, so rest in peace to Chris Esparza, who, as I mentioned, when I first arrived to, I was telling you earlier, when I first got to Makla doing these shows, his wife, Pilar, was the arts curator at Makla, and introduced me to Chris, because she saw something in my events that she saw in Chris's first early events, these little underground parties that weren't just about like a get drunk party. It was like there's purpose and community and all that.
The third space.
Correct. And so he came into my life around that time, and then that was an introduction I had with him. We actually did a show together. We collaborated on a show. I still have the flyer.
Was that Dime back? Was it called?
No. This was just Universal Grammar.
Okay.
It was Universal Grammar Giant Creative Presents.
Yeah.
It was a collab show.
Yeah.
He told me about this band he has coming that he wants to bring out from New York City. They're called Cisse. And I hadn't really heard of them, but he gave me a copy of the album. I was like, oh, I love it. Like, let's do it. Yeah. So he had good taste, So we connected on that level. And then Tamara Alvarado getting the job in 2003. I think like those two individuals were, if people don't know about Tamara and her, and she's just an amazing human being all the way around. I think were super, super monumental in my development as a young creative, but very much in how to apply it in a business model.
Yeah.
I didn't start Universal Grammar at Makla throwing events with any idea of a business model.
Sure, yeah.
I was just
doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was still holding on to the part-time gig at the record store. So and any other odd jobs I can get at time just to pay the bills. But I was still living at home too. But once I got the job at Makla, and I started to realize how there's grants available to you, and these are all things like Tamara's telling me about, or Chris is talking about, like funding from the city, and how do you get that, and then starting the process of organizing what Universal Grammar is. Now, I did introduce myself to to Makla with the proposal, so I did pen a proposal.
Yeah.
But I penned it more as like a manifesto.
Right. than this is who we are.
Yeah, instead of a budget line item, and I was probably weak in that department. But so I started to learn that a little bit more. I think Chris's his want to like work with me and see something in me early on, was huge. And and having somebody like Tamara so early in my career to like influence the hustle and work ethic, Yeah.
What's great about them both, I'm still, I always cry, so it's hard for me to talk about Chris right now. But the thing is about them, they both bring people in, and it's more than just like, oh, I'm your mentee or mentor. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's friendship.
Yeah.
And they really want the best, right?
Yeah.
It's really, great people.
Totally. That point, because Chris has been hard on me at times. And at times I took it personal.
Yeah.
But I had to grow up a little bit and understand that, like, this is, he's showing me how to, like, stand up and be, like, I don't want to say stand up and be a man. It's just, like, you gotta hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm gonna call you on it. Tamara the same way, you know.
Yeah. But you probably grew up like I grew up. Like I didn't grow up thinking about like business, right?
No.
That was never even like in my thought. And actually, anybody who was in business was kind of thought as evil, right? Mm-hmm. So like to think in terms of like, oh yeah, like to be responsible, fiscally, and stuff like that, and plan. It's not a bad thing. Like it's a good thing because you can help other people even with it.
Totally. I had to learn the hard way. Chris was a staunch negotiator, you know. He was he had the gift of gab. He'd tell me he would tell me, he's like, I love the art of negotiating. I love that, you know. And at times when I lean into him, hey man, I need help putting this proposal together for whatever client that was asking me to work with them, and he was there to totally like help me draw it up, you know. So but that part I learned from him too. Is like, okay, he's like, I gotta see how much I can make here. I gotta look out. Yes, I gotta pay artists, but you know.
Yeah.
And so.
And this is a hard town to do what you're doing.
Okay, so that part.
Let's get into that. Let's get into that a little bit too.
So I say to that because like without Makla, without people like Tamara, Chris, and some other folks around that time, I wouldn't be in San Jose.
Yeah.
They literally helped me establish a career in arts and music.
Yeah.
Where there is no industry in music in San Jose. There isn't. There never has been.
Yeah.
Nobody should tell you any different.
Yeah.
At least
there's people that do music who have come from here.
Yes, there's been some. Yeah, there's been some ones that have gotten out and won Grammys and been successful, right? But there's no industry in San Jose. You know,
a sustainable ecosystem where you can perform, produce.
Correct.
And
we have
and venues
in 2024. We have. I don't want to speak wrong, but I mean, let's count them out. We have the Ritz, Art Boutique. You know, San Jose Jazz created a break room. They created a venue in an office space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, Mom McKinn, produces live music.
Yeah. And the Hammer does stuff.
Yeah, I mean
the Civic Center.
Yeah,
those are huge.
No knock on the break room, no knock on Mom McKinn, and it just we don't have a lot of real stages like San Francisco has. Plethora of venues. Yeah. I'm not saying we got to be like that,
right?
But we just don't have that.
Yeah. Would you say? And so that's interesting too. So in this kind of, I mean, this is always the chicken and the egg with San Jose. Like, do those? In some ways, those venues don't exist because it's hard to get the audience and it's hard to get the acts because of the pool of San Francisco, right? Because
the radius clause,
the radius clause, right? I mean,
it's real.
Do you think that's one of the? Would you say that's maybe one of the bigger detriments to San Jose building a stronger music vibrancy?
Absolutely. You cannot deny that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about like music. It's just industry as a whole as it pertains to selling tickets.
Yeah.
The San Francisco Giants stopped the Oakland A's from moving to San Jose because they deemed the San Jose market theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how kind of the music industry looks at our market. But it's not just venues that are saying this. Like, you understand, like, venues like the Independent or Fillmore, which are considered mid-size as compared to the Fox in Oakland or Bill Graham.
Right.
These are all corporate venues now.
Yeah.
These are Live Nation, Another Planet venues. So you're talking about corporate promoters deeming San Jose pretty much their market, their ticket buying market to fill the coffers of these venues in San Francisco.
Right.
And we all participate in it because we want to see the best acts, you know? And so we see ourselves driving up to San Francisco or Oakland to see shows. Because we're not getting them.
I'm just curious, do they think, what about Gilroy and Morgan Hill? Are they still in that same zone?
Well, I don't see a lot of shows popping off in Gilroy.
No, I know. But I'm just wondering because, there is a kind of a shift of like, because of tech and costs, there is like more people moving down to Morgan Hill. And
I think
so.
the
I'm wondering,
safe
like,
space
can you do a show just across the border
it would
in
be,
Morgan Hill,
maybe,
and it wouldn't be in the market of
and that's a risk to like get people to go
Right.
that way. But maybe there's a growth in Gilroy and Morgan Hill.
Yeah.
Like there's an exodus.
Yeah.
I think of people leaving the South Bay and going a little more south to Morgan Hill
Yeah.
and Gilroy. Maybe there is a market there. I haven't seen anybody test it. So
Yeah, right.
And
Get the zip codes at the door.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, that would be something to maybe try out. I don't know if I would take that chance or look, I for the detriment, I guess, of me, I want to continue to like produce in San Jose.
Yeah.
I want to do it for San Jose.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the case. I know like Santa Cruz is safe.
Right.
Monterey is safe
Yeah.
from any jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it's up to also the artists and their
Yeah.
management team. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to go on tour, and San Jose is a market we want.
Right.
I won't name the band, but there was a situation where we almost had a show from a pretty big touring act and couldn't make it happen for just didn't line up. But
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we're not doing SF. We're not doing Oakland, but we want San Jose. Can you get us San Jose? Otherwise, I have an offer in Santa Cruz that we're gladly will take.
Yeah.
But they're like, we want San Jose because that's a market we know will support our band.
Yeah.
But I couldn't make it happen. I had no place to take it.
No venue for the right size.
Too big for the Ritz.
Man, too.
I mean, too late for maybe
The
giving
California, the Hammer, right?
Just
Civic,
not big enough.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting. Okay. So now,
anyways, that's
Do me a quick little thing just off the top of your head. Run down some of the people that you've been able to bring in town for different shows.
So, I'll
Quiz.
say my first
Quiz.
my first year. Okay, I'll take my first year in moving to like a 21 and up spot and throwing my first kind of DJ residency party. The summer of 2003. I had in that series of shows, mind you, that party lasted 8 months, so it was a short-lived party. But we had Jazzy Jeff from Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince fame. I had Questlove of The Roots come down and do a DJ set, which was like one of like 5 DJ gigs over the years that I brought Questlove to San Jose. And then as far as like taking it from there, like hip hop legends such as Pete Rock, Kool Herc, the godfather of hip hop, brought him to San Jose. And as far as like, I guess, industry standard DJs, to me, these guys would be big, but like in 03, I pretty much had the whole Beat Junkies crew, which is an LA DJ crew that consisted of names such as like DJ Babu, Rapmatic, J-Rock, just to name a few, and of course like Shortcut. And I just want to pause and say something. Shortcut, I just want to shout out Shortcut, DJ Shortcut, because he just had a health issue pop up, and he's recovering, but he's got a long recovery ahead of him. But he's been a big player for Universal Grammar. Like and I call him he's my friend, and he's somebody who's been there for me, and just in the industry as far as like the Bay Area goes. But so I'm just wishing him a speedy recovery, because hopefully this gets out to the community if people hear that. So he's very
I'm
loved.
really big with DJs.
So that was year one. And then progressed into I did a couple shows with some of my hip hop heroes such as De La Soul, Diggable Planets, and those were the early years. And I look a lot like those are some names, but a lot of the work Universal Grammar has done has always been about like finding like the emerging talent in music. What's next, So
like jazz, and then you helped out with Sounds Like Jazz, right? Curated a stage for a couple of years. Jazz Beyond stage, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the thing is with before we even get to jazz, it's like a lot of the bookings I was doing weren't just like hip hop related. Like I started getting into, because my ear was like not just the hip hop ear. As I told you,
Totally,
I grew up with funk, soul, and jazz in my household. So I wanted to present something different. I think a lot of people were throwing that type of party that I was throwing in year one, where it was like not everybody's bringing Questlove or Jazzy Jeff for that matter, but a lot of people were doing a similar type of event. So I wanted to just extend myself a little bit. So I started working to look for new talent and doing live shows. So I had, for example, this artist by the name of Dwelle, who has collaborated with Kanye West, and at the time he was like the tastemaker R&B artist of the era of 2004. So I mentioned that show because it really, I think, sent a message to the community like, oh shit, like Tommy's doing some other shit, you know. So I'm proud of like having started my path in that way, because that led me more into like, I'm gonna start doing like jazz shows. Because it's a big part of who I am. So that led to me reaching out to San Jose Jazz, I want to say 2007, and knocking on their door. And saying, hey, how can I be a part of your guys' festival?
Was this before Brendan Rawson was the...
Yes.
So this is back when...
this was...
oh, dang. I can't... He's going to get mad because I can't remember his name. But yeah.
I know you're thinking, but it's not him either.
Oh, okay.
It's even before him. He was actually a jazz musician himself.
Oh, okay.
The guy that was the ED at the time.
All right.
And he gave me a shot. And I can't remember his name, and that sucks because he gave me a shot. Now, I hadn't really met Bruce at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I know he was the artistic director, but most of my conversations were through the ED. And I don't know. He just said, hey, I'm going to give you some money. You can put the jazz logo on the flyer. And so I ended up throwing this show, and I just said, part of the San Jose Jazz Summerfest.
Yeah.
But it didn't really get recognized as an official event, so it wasn't, it's just kind of me trying to forcing my way in there.
Sure.
I
kind of associate with it. And
And then 2 years later, I finally got a chance to meet Bruce Labadie, and he gave me an opportunity.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, because I told him I really dig your Jazz Beyond stage.
Yeah.
I would love to like program it. And he's like, well, who do you want to bring? And I threw out like a few names, and he didn't know any of them. Yeah. And that's no slight on him. It's just a different ear. And I was trying to bring something new and unique. I wanted to say, hey, I have a younger crowd that comes to my shows. I think this would be good for San Jose Jazz going forward into the future. Like bring new fans to the festival. And he listened. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. So I brought this band from Detroit called the Platinum Pied Pipers. And it was a band put together by a good friend of mine out of Detroit. His name is Wajid. We brought him out to San Jose Jazz Fest. They had an album on a local label called Ubiquity. It was one of my favorite records at the time, and I really loved their sound and had this really Detroit soulful sound. And mind you, I have to say, like, I was very much influenced by Detroit music. Going back to Dwelle, he's from Detroit. Platinum Pied Pipers are from Detroit. Wajid was an original member of Slum Village, who's also a Detroit band, which featured the late great Jay Dilla. And so we put him on the Jazz Beyond stage. I forget where it was placed at. It was, obviously in the downtown map they had it that year. And even according to Bruce, he said it was a great turnout, good energy. I thought it was a great show. I thought everything was just like amazing. Big stage. It was my first big stage.
Was it when they did it in was it Lofton over there or Post Street?
It was not on Post.
Because I went a couple years over on Post Street, and that was like there was some great.
I can't exactly remember the street.
I think Peanut Butter Wolf even did a set.
So that was 2000. The Peanut Butter Wolf year was 2019.
Oh, okay.
And we actually had Wolf out twice for the Jazz Beyond stage. But so that led to doing more, and then I think after that year, that's when I came across the Pagoda.
Oh, okay. So this is a long time ago.
Yeah. So you're talking about 2007, 2008 was my first encounter with like reaching out to another organization that I thought was a big deal for me. Again, as a kid in San Jose looking for cool things, the Jazz Fest was another one of those events.
Yeah.
That was free at the time, and I could just come downtown and walk around and just hear all these jazz sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I want to be a part of this. You know?
Well, real quick, let's segue just for a kind of a commercial poke, because the Jazz Festival is going on this weekend. Actually, I think we're putting this out next week, though. So it's going to be after the festival. But who did you have come this past weekend, speaking in the future as if it's the past, right? And then,
I guess my contribution to this year's festival. So over the last few years, pre-pandemic, I would say from 2015 to now, a lot of the programming I've been providing, the Jazz Fest or Summer Fest, has been around DJs.
Yeah.
And again, there's another intentional thing. In 2015-16, my whole pitch to do after parties that feature DJs, but not just like any DJ, but of very much like the way we recognize. Let's say like this year, Herbie Hancock's coming to town.
Yeah, main stage. Yeah.
And he's a living legend.
Yeah.
And you better come check him out, because you know how many chances you might get to see him, right? So I think that way about DJ culture, right? Where I think DJs get also a bad rep, or like the more pop look of a DJ is like, you know, oh, it's a big stage, you know, millions of, like a festival or something, like electronic dance music festival or something in that space, which is great, and great energy, and you know, everybody's got different flavors, you know. But to me, there's a lot of DJs of our era that just birthed, again, I think, things that I have end up looking up and studying and experiencing for myself by going to New York, in Chicago, and LA, and seeing like, and watching these legendary DJs kind of do their thing. Like I have to say that, like, for example, I'm influenced by the stories of Larry Levan, early New York, like DJing, Chicago house scene and that type of stuff. How like those were more cultural movements in DJ culture, whereas I thought that we need to start programming these current like voices of music that are DJs. And I think in 2015, it might have sounded a bit blasphemous that you would have a DJing lineup at a jazz festival.
Right.
That really wasn't happening in 2015 at most jazz festivals, if you were paying attention. And so I had brought out Ali Shaheed Muhammad of A Tribe Called Quest to DJ as part of the Jazz Beyond stage after party. And I mean, it was like a line down the block of Jazz Fest, you know, wristband holders. They knew like, oh my God, Ali Shaheed Muhammad of A Tribe Called Quest is DJing at the Continental.
Yeah.
And it proved to be a significant booking, because Ali Shaheed's music is important, and what he's doing as a DJ is important, right? It's beyond pop. It's beyond whatever current trend of music is happening. He's timeless, right? And he's a living legend, you know? So I look to say, like, hey, we need to start treating DJs with a little bit more respect. And you know what? The San Jose Jazz afforded me the opportunity and recognized that, yes, we want to support you in that.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say this year, my contribution, I'm bringing another living legend, in my opinion, and many people's opinions. Rich Medina will be playing Saturday night at Signia Hotel, the old Fairmont. His set is at 10 o'clock, and his story is vast. Just Google Rich Medina.
Is that a wristband festival venue?
Free.
Or is
free.
It's a free.
Yeah, free. You don't have
to. At the Signia that night, it's free?
Yeah.
You were telling me he owns a vinyl bar in Miami or something like that?
Yeah, you know, so with this popularity or trend of vinyl bars around the world right now, he probably has one of the better vinyl bars that have opened of late. It's called Dante's Hi-Fi in Miami, and there's 2 of them. There's one in Austin as well, but it's pretty much he's got ownership stake in it, and he's pretty much brought most of his record collection to that space.
That's cool.
And check them out on Instagram, Dante's Hi-Fi. They really have great programming. They have a great way of marketing the DJs and talking about them. And Rich Medina is the man behind it. So, yeah.
That's cool. So Rich Medina, of course, I hope maybe we can get this little part out. He's going to be this Saturday night, the 10th.
Yep.
At Signia for free.
For free at 10 o'clock.
David, you going to go by? So, yeah, cool. All right. Let's okay, we kind of all over the place, but let's go. No, it's cool. It's cool. So, what's in the plans for Universal Grammar coming up? And what do you kind of focus on? You've been in the game now. You're talking like 2000, 2003, 2001, and this is 2024 minus pandemic years. Which, so that's a long stretch. You've been at the game. You've been calling up agents and musicians for years. What are you kind of thinking? What are you looking at?
Well, look, I'm kind of doing a little bit of I'm looking inward, and I have to look back to the last 10 years. And sometimes things you get in your hustle and you just keep moving, keep producing.
Kind of had a habit. And
in the last 10 years, and this is after Pagoda, which I have to say was a good era for me.
Yeah.
You asked me about artists I've brought out. That led, so the Pagoda era led to this 10-year run that I wouldn't even say the last 5 years, because the last 5 years kind of been tough. But I've been still trying to chug along and figure it out as I go. But just kind of looking at that Pagoda era to about right before the pandemic and reflecting on that and saying wow, I was pretty prolific in my bookings during those times. The hotel afforded me, or Pagoda afforded me I bought out an artist by the name of K Trinata. Some of y'all might know his name. Little Dragon, Hottest Coyote, Grammy Award winning, who actually just played the Fox, and Robert Glasper Experiment. So I can go on Cody Chestnut. That was all the Pagoda era, and that led to this kind of continental era starting 2015. Where I was able to work with some emerging artists such as Masego and Tori Moi, to name a few. Omar Apollo, was also part of that series of shows. So I'm trying to get back to this place where it's how can I become intentional again, introducing new names to the scene. Yeah, I don't know.
Like the curation.
Yeah. And I don't know. That's the thing. It's I'm DJing a lot more these days, personally, than I have ever had. So I have a lot of opportunities to DJ. Thankful for that. I'm booking for a club downtown, which I never envisioned myself programming a venue as such.
Oh, really? Which I don't know.
San Pedro Social. Shout out to San Pedro Social fam. It's primarily Fridays and Saturdays. It's pop, top 40, rap, kind of set list. Yeah. There's really no change in that, and there's nothing against that.
Yeah, because they have a crowd that's coming in to play games, and to eat, have a good time, and want something playing.
Right. And it's pretty good.
They're not there to do a deep dive and be exposed to something new.
Yeah, I can't.
They're not.
No.
It's
a fun space.
Yeah, fun.
They come to have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity to book that. But it shows that I can do that. I know enough DJs in the network that do that well. And even then, I try to curate that at a high level.
Yeah.
That kind of space, I'm not going to just have any DJ. I want to have the best DJs that are doing it right now.
Yeah.
So that's all kind of keeping me afloat and keeping me in the game, so to speak.
Well, can I just say on that, not to interrupt you, but one of the crazy things, right? I mean, you talked about the Pagoda and is the the venues, right? I mean, they're ever changing management, leadership, whatever, and then you need a spot. a place.
100%. Because without like a platform, a solid standing, I cannot.
A canvas.
yeah. You can't. You don't have a strong footing. If you're on unsettled ground, you're always on unsettled ground. You just never know what your next step is going to be. It's really hard to establish something consistently. And venues, especially working in, say, the hotel industry, it's very difficult because you have one manager who believes in you and they leave on to the next position. A new manager comes in and they don't see the vision.
Yeah. We have the same thing just with the magazine. Like you have one management group over there and they're like super excited about it, and then they leave without you even knowing. And somebody else comes in, they're like, we just got all these magazines, what are these? And then we have to like start this whole courting process all over again.
Yeah, you got to educate them and exactly, the courting process. And sometimes that's it, the new person doesn't give you enough time to like really like push it out there. So I think like I don't want to put this out there and not follow through on it, but there's always been in the back of my mind, I need to open my own space.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
As I've waited over the years, maybe it was a good thing I didn't open something before 2020.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then now here we are. Like, it's taken a minute for us to all kind of get into the swing of things post pandemic.
Yeah.
So maybe that's in the cards for me. Like, I mean,
okay.
because I just ended up finishing, the Rich Medina party. And another big show I have coming up on August 21st, I want to mention. Madison McFerrin, the daughter of Bobby McFerrin, but she's got her own sound and she's a really amazing singer. And
was Bobby McFerrin? He was in San Francisco, wasn't he?
He lived. They
lived in San Francisco.
They grew up. She grew up in San Francisco. They ended up moving. I don't know her story. She's been all over the place. I think she lived in Brooklyn for some time. But yeah, she's going to be headlining a show that I'm doing at the Signia, which will be my last show there for some time.
That's the 21st.
That's
August
the 21st, yeah.
What time is that?
Doors at 7, showtime at 8 o'clock. It's all ages. You can grab tickets if you follow us on Instagram at Ungrammar. That's UNGRAMR at Ungrammar. Yeah. The ticket link's in our bio.
Give me a little flavor.
So I think what I'm excited about this show because it really is it encompasses everything that Universal Grammar has always been about. You have an emerging artist as the opening act. Her name's Milan Ring. This is her first time. She'll be playing on the West Coast. She's based in Australia, so we were a catalyst to her helping her get her visa to come out and perform in the States. In fact, big fan of Madison McFerrin. I've had her in San Jose a few times, and she continues to grow and continues to put out good music. But you have two artists that are very soulful, jazzy, powerful women on stage. They have like a big presence on stage, and we just try to create a vibe. I think if people have never been to a Universal Grammar experience, it's really all about the vibe. And we want to create a safe space for folks to come in and enjoy something that you don't typically get to see in San Jose.
Yeah, cool.
It's a very intimate space. It's a beautiful space at the Signia. It's Club Regent at Signia. So, and I'll be DJing too, so get a chance to vibe out with me. And I also have Zuri Alexa, who's another up-and-coming young DJ. Shout out to Zuri, who also be dropping a set as well. So, yeah, I think we're very intentional about how we curate the space. So this isn't just like something that was handed to me. It was like, no, I like Milan Ring's music. How do I get her to San Jose?
Yeah,
or how can I work with her? Madison McFerrin, same thing. And these things
so
just
it's actually
align.
That's kind of cool. It's kind of started more with you kind of being a fan or liking their stuff, and then figuring out how to bring them into that's cool.
Yeah. It's
to expose them to the rest of the community.
And that's a very important part to my process of finding artists. Is like, I know there's so many streaming platforms like Spotify, for example, that they have an algorithm. You play an artist and then they serve you songs, and it's like you discover. It's a good discovery tool, but it's like it's easy. It's like Hamburger Helper. The old school way is like you're digging through music,
and
right?
You're reading the liner notes.
Yeah,
to see
exactly.
Who's
Who's coming next or whatever.
They were in this band before this band. And
Correct. Or this producer
right, totally.
has produced these 5 tracks for this album. And then you're like, well, what other work has that producer done? And then you kind of follow their path. But, so, and nobody's saying like you should book so-and-so. I mean, I have my trusted ears. I do have folks that I can talk to.
Like, hey,
what do you think? Have you heard this artist? And then it's like, I haven't heard of them. Check them out. Tell me what you think. And it's like, oh, yo, Tom, this is it. They're good, So, or, I'm not really feeling them. So, it's like it's just a fill out process.
It's not in a vacuum. It's not just Tommy alone.
But at the same time,
with his stogie and
at the same time though, if it hits, it hits. And so I can't say that I've missed that many personally. I'm not saying that like all my shows have been like sellouts. Take Omar Apollo, for example. I think we had like 60 tickets sold for that show. And he just played the Civic, and sold 5,000 tickets. So, and he's, Grammy nominated. He's big, you know. That's just, I guess, a dilemma that San Jose has. I'm in the wrong market maybe where, or just I'm a little early sometimes with the artists that I want to present. It's just because I don't have the timing of things. I don't really calculate.
It's a hard what factor, right? What's the element that sometimes make it where you think you can bring like 200 people and 60 show up, like, and sometimes it's hard to figure out that.
And I'm telling you, like Milan Ring, right? I'm saying this like
Milan Ring.
She's like, come check her out. She's an amazing artist. What drew me to her is online, the videos that I've seen of her, like she's like making her own beats. She's playing multiple instruments, creating her songs. And then she has an amazing voice. And I'm like, this is something you want to see. Like, I believe in this artist. Like, my ear is telling me, right? It's like, so I would hope that if people follow me or follow Universal Grammar and I put out a show, hey, here's my next show, and they look at the 2 artists' names and like, I've never heard of them.
Right.
There's
I know.
That's what I hope people would think, but anyways. So,
cool. That's the August 21st show. So then, right now, what are you listening to? Like, what do you kind of?
Well, there's 2 ways that I'm listening to music right now. Like, as a DJ, I'm influenced by stuff that moves people on the dance floor. But that's like one side. So in that space,
Is that when you listen to that? Is it somewhat kind of researchy in a way? Would you say? Kind of like with almost like an ear for the business, and you're kind of like trying to pull things in, like, oh yeah, this is good for this, right? But then there's another side of you that just listens just as a music lover, right?
Correct. So that's the other side. Like when it comes across to like the Milan Rings, and those types of discoveries, there's nothing the Milan Ring has made that I could put in like a dance floor DJ set.
Right.
It just, people wouldn't recognize it, and she doesn't really have anything like that. That doesn't mean that somebody couldn't take one of her records and remix it and make it a dance floor song. But so I listen to 2 different ways. Look at the DJ side is you kind of build upon what you already have. So I have a sound that if I DJ, I'll probably play like a good amount of, like half of the songs I play will be songs you've heard me play a lot if you've heard me DJ. But then there's going to be 5 other songs where I'm like, you probably don't know this song.
You're trying to lead them into it.
Correct. And build that trust with them. So a lot of the stuff that I'm on right now, it's kind of the trend is a lot of like Afro pop, like Amapiano, which is like a form of house music that's come out of South Africa. And then like ballet funk. But the crazy thing about ballet funk is like that was introduced, I think, to American ears early 2010s. So it's wild to me that like in 2024 that it's become a very big part of like the DJ vernacular. And I'm like, wow, these are songs I've had for a decade in my crates, and now I can pull them out and play them. So it's weird how music can be sometimes in that space. So that's why you got to archive it, though, and it's like you liked it for some reason back then, maybe it's taking some time for it to kind of reintroduce itself into the vernacular of like the DJ space. And I'm talking about, this is out of the top 40 space. Like the you're not playing really ballet funk out of like a top 40 space. You could, it's the way you deliver it, I guess. But the other side, what am I listening to? I have my artists that I look out for that are like new, but trying to think of an album that I have on repeat right now. I just have so many. I can't even think of one.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah. There's, gosh, I don't know. I'm listening to a lot of, I don't know. I mean, what's on my record player right
what's
now?
On the record player right now?
Bad, Not Good.
Okay.
Yeah, trio out of Toronto.
Yeah. All right, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Hopefully I can get through it. But if you were to play a track for...
I do have an artist really quick.
Okay.
And this is probably a lot of people's favorite artist right now. But Cleo Soul has got my ear right now.
Okay.
And she's actually collaborated with another band called Salt.
Okay.
So they came on the scene in 2020. But those if any, you ask me what I'm like, what's in my...
That's what's kind of like...
That is kind of like where my ear is at right now.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah. Okay,
so I would say if you were to play a track for Chris Esparza,
what
would you play?
Man. I just know Chris as a person who had soul. And usually if you like soul music, you have great taste. So if I was going to play something now, because I don't know like what he liked, like what he was probably playing regularly.
Yeah.
He liked a lot of stuff. And like I said, he brought a band to my attention that I had never heard of. And it was kind of new to him too. But I would probably play like something like from like These Sacred Souls or, something like Duran Jones vibes. I don't have one song from them, but I just think that's kind of like those are two modern bands playing an old style of sound, but it's very much contemporary, And I think that just evokes like I think there's a timelessness to what Chris brought to the game. The way he would curate an event, draw up the plans, and execute. I think old soul music's kind of that way. It's just very crisp, clean, quick, 2-minute, 30-second songs, it just execute it well, and it's timeless.
Yeah.
So
cool. Yeah.
That's what I would drop for Chris.
Awesome. Cool. Are you reading anything right now? Or are you any books you're into?
You know what? I read a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'll just give you like something that just came in the mail yesterday.
Okay.
A new comic book by Metro Boomin, the producer. His name's Metro Boomin. He's done work for like Drake and a bunch of other new rappers, but he actually has beef with Drake right now, but that's the whole Kendrick thing.
Sure.
Yeah, but he created his own comic book.
Oh, really?
So it's called the Metroverse, and I haven't read it yet, but just came in the mail. Yeah. So that's cool. So I'm into a lot of different things. I'll read, poetry and nonfiction and fiction. Yeah. I love it all. So
cool, awesome. Yeah. So just tell the camera where they can find what's all your important details.
Well, you can find me on Instagram as DJ Chale Brown, and my handle is _Chale Brown. That's THEREL_CHALEBROWN. That's my personal account. I put everything up there that I'm usually a part of, even the Universal Grammar stuff. But if you specifically want to find out what Universal Grammar's up to, you can follow us on Instagram at ungrammar, and that's spelled UNGRAMR. And we're about to drop a new account. So it's something that's going to be coming in the next few months. There's an ongoing series of events called The Changing Same. You might have heard of them, but we haven't really given an official home. So there'll be the Changing Same account opening up
Cool.
The next few months or so.
Yeah.
So that will be at the Changing Same. So those are the 3 accounts,
Cool.
that I'm doing stuff. But man, there's so much I feel like we didn't talk about. But
We'll have to have you back next month.
Well, I just think that this is it's just I'm in a space where it's just right now I'm just kind of like not going through the motions. It's just I'm trying to find that platform right now, that spot, that would have me, and curate some very universal-esque events. Shout out to Signia, though. I definitely want to say thank you to them for giving me an opportunity to do it. Like I said, we're doing the Madison McFerrin Milan Ring show there.
Yeah,
will be
awesome.
our last collab with them for some time. So I guess we're going on pause after that show. So hopefully y'all can pull up to that.
Yeah, August 21st.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure you're all out there. Yeah, cool. All right, Tom, thanks so much.
All right, man.
Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the South Bay creatives. This episode's music is 408 by Jack Pavlina. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Jack Pavlina Music.